Welcome to the 6th episode of the Language Talks webinar series organized by Bartın University Department of Foreign Language Education. I'm Burçin Gizem Gökçay, a third-year student at Bartın University ELT Department. Today we are honored to host Professor Dr. İsmail Hakkı Mirici from the Department of Foreign Language Education of Hacettepe University. Professor Mirici's talk is titled Pedagogical and Descriptive Functions of the EPOSTL, that is the European Portfolio for Students, Teachers of Language. This is a subject that students, educators, and practitioners within the field of English language teaching are sure to benefit from. But apart from that, we as Bartın University Department of Foreign Language Education believe that this is a very timely meeting for us, as the senior students at our department will be doing their teaching practicals this year. Our speaker, Professor Mirici, has taught undergraduates, graduates, and doctoral level lectures for over 3 decades. He has published books, conference proceedings, and academic articles in prestigious national and international journals extensively. He served as the President of Girls Education for Curriculum and Instruction, as the Education Agent of the Turkish Consulate in Chicago, and as the Dean of Atatürk Faculty of Education at Near East University in North Cyprus. He is also the current President of the Turkish Academic Community of ELT. We are very lucky to have him in particular to talk about the EPOSTL today, given that he has worked as the coordinator of the European Language Portfolio Project in Turkey and as the representative of Turkey in Council of Europe. I would like to thank Professor Mirici for accepting our invitation and leave the floor to him.
Thank you, Burçin. Burçin, which one to use, Burçin or Gizem?
Burçin.
Okay, thank you very much, Burçin. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you very much for attending this Zoom session. And my appreciations to Burcu Şentürk. Dr. Şentürk is the organizer of this event, and I wish her a fast recovery, hopefully. Yes, today's session I would like to share with you is about the European portfolio for student teachers of languages. In other words, for prospective foreign language teachers. And since the participants of this presentation today are all from the English language teaching department, we will align all the statements to improvement of the teaching skills and self-assessment of English language teachers in the future. Good. So, yes, let me start talking about the European portfolio for student teachers of languages. As the name suggests, it is a European document, and the function of it is mainly for the self-assessment of general and professional competences of prospective language teachers. It also says it can be utilized by the teachers in service. Not only prospective teachers, but the teachers in service can also utilize it as a self-assessment document. Just after this short intro, I would like to share my screen. Can you see the slide now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the EPOSTL is kind of a self-assessment, self-reflection tool for language teacher education and for, of course, prospective teachers of languages and also teachers in service. Okay. The EPOSTL is a European document developed on behalf of the European Center for Modern Languages, which is based in Austria, Graz, by David Newby, Carl Francis from Carl Francis University, Graz, Austria, Rebecca Allen from Southampton University in the UK, Ann-Britt Fenner from University of Bergen in Norway, Barry Jones from University of Cambridge in the UK, Hanna Komorowska from University of Warsaw in Poland, and Christian Soginkian from Brasov Linguistic University in Yerevan, Armenia. So these are the leaders of the project, but of course there were many teacher participants for the analysis on description and the determination of the descriptors. Then what is the EPOSTL? EPOSTL stands for the European Portfolio for Student Teachers of Languages, and this is a document for students undergoing initial teacher education. It aims to encourage teachers, prospective teachers, to reflect on their didactic knowledge and skills necessary to teach languages and to help them to assess their own didactic competences and enables them to monitor their progress and to record their experiences of teaching during the course of their teacher education. It has mainly two functions. One is its descriptive function. The other is its pedagogical function. What about its descriptive function? The EPOSTL has 193 descriptors. These are can-do statements. I don't know if you have ever seen a European language portfolio. European language portfolio is for learners of languages to self-assess their linguistic and intercultural achievements. This portfolio is for prospective teachers to self-assess their general and didactic competences using different can-do statements. As I said, it has 193 can-do descriptors to facilitate their self-reflection and self-assessment. The components of the EPOSTL are a personal statement section about who they are, what they are learning to teach, and a self-assessment section consisting of 193 can-do statements, a dossier part which can be utilized to keep the evidence documents of the reflections in the can-do statements, a glossary part about the terms which are used in the EPOSTL, kind of a dictionary, an index of terms which can be used to access some specific information in the EPOSTL, and the user's guideline providing detailed information about the EPOSTL. So it comprises some separate components, just like in the European language portfolio. If you remember, in the European language portfolio, there are three main components: language biography, dossier, and language passport. Likewise, in the EPOSTL, there is a personal statement part, which is about biography, can-do statements, which can be included in the biography, a dossier to keep some evidence, documents, certificates, etc., a glossary for the definition of terms, and an index, and user's guideline. So it has some components to make it easy for the portfolio users. The EPOSTL aims to encourage, as I said, prospective teachers to reflect on their competences and their attainments within the process of their education in their departments. But at the same time, teachers in service can make use of it to keep the record of their personal experiences in their professional life, in and outside of their classes. It also helps to prepare for future profession in a variety of teaching contexts, because in the EPOSTL, there are separate sections in which prospective teachers or teachers in service are required to examine the criteria and find out where they are among the given alternative evaluation scale. And it also aims to promote discussion between prospective teachers or teachers and their peers, or between themselves and their educators and mentors. In addition, it aims to facilitate self-assessment of developing their competences, and it also provides an instrument which helps them chart their progress. So if we look at this description of the functions of the EPOSTL, we may divide them into two as descriptive functions and pedagogical functions. I said the EPOSTL has 193 descriptors or can-do statements. They are for description of the teachers or prospective teachers' teaching profile. So they can be considered as the descriptive part of the EPOSTL. In addition, it has some explanations about the vocabulary used in the glossary part, guidelines for the use of the EPOSTL. So again, it is the descriptive side of the EPOSTL. So it describes what EPOSTL is. It describes how you are competent as a teacher or prospective teacher in your professional life. Also, it describes some terms or other kinds of descriptions in the document. So it has some descriptive functions. What about the pedagogical side? Does it also promote teachers' learning experience, teachers' teaching skills, or prospective teachers' progress in their educational life? Yes. How? First of all, if someone is aware of his or her own competencies, then that person naturally becomes self-aware. A self-aware person knows what he or she knows, what he or she needs to know more. Besides, if someone knows what he or she needs to know, that person makes a huge step towards developing autonomous learning competencies. If someone becomes an autonomous learner, then that person also naturally makes a huge step towards developing metacognitive learning strategies. Because if you are an aware learner, if you are taking your own learning responsibilities, if you become a self-directed learner, then you know what you need to learn. You search for alternative ways to access the information you need to obtain. And when you obtain the required or necessary information, when you access it, then you make use of it for your own sake. So, total, this can be said that that learner has a highly developed metacognitive learning strategies. If a teacher or a prospective teacher becomes a metacognitively developed learner, then you may expect that teacher to educate their students become metacognitively developed learners. So they know better how to develop their students' metacognitive learning strategies. So this is one of the main functions of the EPOSTL as a pedagogic document. Another one, it provides several descriptors, can-do statements for different competences as a teacher. One, for your personal competences as a user of the language you teach. In our context, it is English. How much do you think you are competent in the using of English for different purposes? Another one, how much do you think you are able to prepare, for example, reading materials? How much do you think you are competent at designing writing classes? How much do you think you are competent at preparing test items? So, teacher as an offering reading, writing, listening, speaking skills classes, or a tester, teacher as a tester, or teacher as an assessor, teacher as a partner of the students, teacher as a coordinator in the classroom for offering a positive learning environment for the students. So they are all presented in different descriptors of the can-do statements. So this is, again, another pedagogical function of the EPOSTL, because it subconsciously enables the teachers or prospective teachers to shape their professional abilities. When you assess yourself using can-do statements in the EPOSTL, then you become more aware what competences and how much are required and where you are among the given alternative assessment scale. So this is, we can say that it's pedagogical function. Please have a look at this chart. This is the categorization of the EPOSTL as a self-assessment tool. In the EPOSTL, there are even six main sections. Examine it. One is resources, it is other. Assessment of learning, independent learning, conducting a lesson, lesson planning, context, methodology, and of course, resources as the other part. Have a look at the assessment of learning. Designing assessment tools, evaluation, self and peer assessment, language performance, culture, error analysis. These are the subsections in the assessment of learning part using can-do statements. An EPOSTL holder, an EPOSTL owner, prospective teacher or teacher are able to self-assess their assessment of learning part using these subcategories. The subcategories in the assessment of learning part are, again, designing assessment tools, how competent you are. So you need to self-assess yourself about that. Evaluation, how do you think you evaluate? How do you think you base your evaluation on your assessment? Self and peer assessment, what it is. Are you doing this? How much? Language performance, culture, error analysis. How do you think you are competent at conducting all these types of assessment of learning? How much do you know them? So in the EPOSTL, there is a section called assessment of learning and subsections of designing assessment tools, evaluation, self and peer assessment, language performance, culture, and error analysis for the self-assessment. There are can-do statements about them. For example, another one is context, curriculum, aims and needs, the role of the language teacher, institutional resources and constraints. How much do you know them? In the context part of the EPOSTL, there are subcategories using can-do statements. The prospective teacher or teachers self-evaluate their knowledge and skills about the curriculum, about the aims and needs of the curriculum, about the role of the language teacher. How much do they know about the role of the language teacher? Do you know it? How much do you know it? And institutional resources and constraints. What do you know about that? And how much? Let me underline another fact about a self-assessment tool. When you are designing a kind of a self-assessment tool, it can be unit-based, it can be proficient user, it can be for any other purposes. The answers to the self-reflection should not be given only with two answers, yes or no, or not three, yes, no, or maybe. In a self-assessment tool, if your purpose is to understand what a person can do, then you shouldn't use negative reflection alternatives. There shouldn't be no. There shouldn't be negative reflection. There shouldn't be any ugly face. There shouldn't be I cannot do it. Because your purpose is to understand what they can do, not what they cannot do. So another important issue for a self-assessment tool is to offer a scale to understand how much they can do something. For example, do you know about the functions of a curriculum? So the scale should be maybe numerical from 1 to 5, maybe some alternative reflections, for example, I want to do it, I can do it a little bit, I can understand it with some support, I can do it very successfully. So there should be a scale. Or just like in the EPOSTL, there can be an arrow. On the arrow, they can shade it. I can do this much, I can do that much, I can do very well. So this kind of scaling should be given in any kind of a self-reflection tool. So this is the EPOSTL's way to use an arrow. On the arrow, EPOSTL owner shades his or her own progress and success. Another section is independent learning. What do you think you know about independent learning? Do you know what learner autonomy is? If you say so, how much? What about homework? Do you think you can develop homework for your students? What about projects? What about portfolios? What are they? Do you think you can use it? How much? Virtual learning environments. Do you know what virtual learning is? And how much do you know about it? Or extracurricular activities. As a teacher or prospective teacher, you need to be aware of some extracurricular activities to avoid the risk of offering a dull, boring classroom session. Another section in the EPOSTL is methodology. In the methodology part, portfolio owner is given space to self-evaluate his or her spoken interaction classes, writing, written interaction classes, listening, reading, grammar, vocabulary, culture, teaching them. How do you think you can teach them? How much? Or conducting a lesson. How much do you think you are successful using lesson plans? How much do you think you are able to include the content in your classes? How much do you think you have interaction with the learners in your classes? What about the classroom management skills? Do you think you are competent at managing your classrooms? How much? And classroom language. Do you teach using L1, only L2, or both? And what is the rate of using L1 and L2? Talk about the ratio you are using in the classes. So the teacher or prospective teacher will self-reflect. Lesson planning. This is another section. Identification of learning objectives. Do you think you are able to identify learning objectives when you are designing a lesson? Do you think you also are competent at determining the content of the lesson? How much do you think you can do this? And what about the organization of the classes? How do you organize it? From easy to complex, or from simple to difficult? How do you design it? How much successful you are about that? And the resources you use, do you think you are making use of different kinds of resources? So this is the map of different sections presented in the EPOSTL, and all are for the self-reflection of prospective teachers or teachers. So once you start your department, please remember that you are in an English language teaching department. You will become English language teachers in the future, or educators of language in a sense, or maybe academics in the field of English language education. So these are the criteria determined by the European Commission. These are internationally recognized competences. So the greater level, the greater degree you move on, the better competence or skills you have achieved within the criteria of the European Commission. So this makes you internationally successful teacher or prospective teacher. Let me share a concrete document. This is the EPOSTL. You will have this as a document. This is European Portfolio for Student Teachers of Languages. This is the cover page. This is the introduction page. These are the contents of the EPOSTL. And this is the description of the EPOSTL. What is EPOSTL? What is the aim of the EPOSTL? Contents of the EPOSTL, self-assessment descriptors. And this is the categorization I just presented, self-assessment scales. I want to share one scale with you. These are some initial reflections. Look, curriculum. I can understand requirements set in national and local curricula. How much? So you are required to shade this arrow. And maybe you can divide the arrow into separate sections. For example, if you shade just a little bit, write the date on it. When? When did you write you are doing this at a given period of time? And in your next evaluation, if you move further your shading, then you put another date over there. So you can see the difference between the first shading and the second shading. When did you say yes for this much? When do you say yes that much? So the balance shows your progress. And you will see how much you are progressing in your professional life. I can design language courses around the requirements of the national local curricula, for example. How much? So can you see properly the pages? The assessment scale, can you see it here?
Yes,
underneath the statement?
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, we can
Yes,
see
so
it.
underneath you can see the arrow, right? The shading part. Good.
Yeah.
So this is for the curriculum part. Aims and needs. I can understand the personal, intellectual, and cultural value of learning other languages. Do you know it? How much? And when? So when you shade the arrow, you should just drop the note of the date here. And next time, of course, this assessment should not be done only once. You should utilize the EPOSTL self-assessment maybe at least 5 or 6 times a year. At least twice, at least once in 2 months. So every 2 months, you need to revise from the beginning to the end of all these 193 descriptors. Each time you will discover your progress. And each time you will shade the arrow and drop the note of the date, and you will see the balance, the difference between your first, second, third, and fourth self-assessment. The difference will show your progress forward or backward. Maybe you said yes in the beginning, but it decreased later. If you do not maybe practice it very much, you may lose your skills. So it may move forward or backward. Both ways are possible. It is not necessary to be forward all the time. So you will see. I don't know. The role of language teacher. I can promote the value and benefits of language learning to learners, parents, and others. How much do you think you can do this? Can you do this? How much? I can appreciate and make use of value added to the classroom environment by learners with diverse cultural backgrounds. So do you think you have enough cultural diversity? Are you ready to teach English in a diverse classroom? Because, for example, if you teach in Europe, you may have diverse student population in the classroom, students from different countries, immigrants, etc. If you are teaching in a different part of our country, there are different students from different cultural backgrounds. You may teach students from Kurdish cultural background, Arabic cultural background, or Laz cultural background, or Caucasian or Cherkess cultural background, from the wealthy families, from the poor families, children from the urban areas, from the rural areas. So these are also cultural diversification. Do you think you are ready to teach in a diverse classroom like that? If you say yes, then do it. How much? Then show it. When? Drop the note of the date on it. So this will show your progress as a prospective or teacher in service in the end. You will keep these portfolios I highly recommend from the first year to the last year of the department. But now we have, I think, only the students from the 4th grades of the ELT department. So any single of you are highly recommended or is highly recommended to obtain an EPOSTL and start self-reflection. You will have some practice classes in schools, classroom or school experience classes, right? So in the school experience classes, you should make use of this EPOSTL to see your progress. And when you graduate from your department, please keep your portfolio with you if you aim to teach anywhere abroad, because this will be required from you when you go to a school in any other country other than Turkey in Europe. This is a formal document, by the way. So keeping an EPOSTL shows that you have received language teacher education through European education criteria. What else? Institutional resources and constraints. I can assess how I might use the resources available in my school. For example, OHP, computers, library, etc. OHP is not used anymore. I don't know if there are some electronic highly developed overhead projectors, but the overhead projectors we used in the past were so simple, very low technology. But now today, I know in the States, they are using some overhead projectors, highly developed, adaptable to computers, and it is used. So probably in one of the European countries, you may see this. I can recognize the organizational constraints and resource limitations existed at my school and adapt my teaching accordingly. Yes, especially in Turkey. You will not teach English in a paradise school. You will teach English maybe in very rural area. Lack of any kind of a supplementary material, any kind of a technological device. So do you think you can still teach in such a classroom? Do you think you can be creative enough to create some successful classroom environment, encouraging your students, utilizing the materials you develop? How much? Now, how much? Next time, how much? The other time, how much? When you finish, how much? So you should see your progress. And if you do not go forward, this also shows that you must be better. You must do something more. Maybe you are on a wrong track. All right. So this is another pedagogical function of the EPOSTL. So this is the methodology part. For example, speaking or spoken interaction. You know, in the Common European Framework, there are 5 skills: listening, reading, spoken interaction, spoken production, and writing. So all European documents are comprehensively designed. They are consistent with each other. So speaking, this is spoken interaction. There is another speaking, spoken production. So this is for interaction. I can create a supportive atmosphere that invites learners to take part in speaking activities. Do you think you can do this? How much? How much do you think you are doing it at the time of starting using portfolios? And how much do you think you are able to do next time? How much do you think you can do this the other time? When, how much? So you need to reflect your skills doing this, shading the scale of hero. Do you understand? Is it clear, guys? Yes. So this is the EPOSTL: reading part, grammar part, vocabulary part, culture part, resources part, and self-assessment part. Going on. Identification of learning objectives. Lesson content. Self-assessment. Conducting a lesson. For example, conducting a lesson using lesson plans. I can start a lesson in an engaging way. Do you think you can? How much? I can be flexible when working from a lesson plan and respond to learner interest as the lesson progresses. So your lesson plan is not a holy text. You should be able to adopt. You should be able to flexible enough to adopt your classroom objectives with the students' level of readiness, their attendance, their interests, their motivation. So you need to do it in a skillful way. I can ensure smooth transition between activities and tasks for individuals, groups, and the whole class. So do you think you can do this kind of a smooth transition without interrupting the flow of the classroom successfully? How much? When? So this time, next time, the other time. So you need to self-assess using the arrow for the scaling purposes. Yes. All right. I think you have all been informed about what EPOSTL is like as a document, the function of it, how to utilize it, and its purpose for pedagogical parts and for descriptive parts. It presents some descriptions, but at the same time using these descriptions, responding to questions, and shading your success in different times will give you opportunity to discover what kind of a teacher you are, how skillful you are, and what is your progress. So this is mainly pedagogical part of it as a teacher in the future to see your success and to reconsider your teaching professional, your teaching skills. So this is also pedagogically contributing to your progress as a teacher in the future for your career. And these descriptions are developed in through a statistical analysis. They are scientific results. So you can trust this document as a reliable and valid document, statistically analyzed and come across with this description, just like in the European language portfolio. Okay, guys? Yes, I think your department has had an agreement with a printing house, photocopy or somewhere, to obtain these documents, or probably they will send them in a PDF format. You may be responsible for printing it out or having it binded somewhere else in a bookstore or in any way you may wish. But it is highly important that you obtain one European portfolio for some teachers of languages for your personal self-assessment as a prospective teacher, prospective successful international teachers, not local ones, not domestic ones, but putting mirror into your professional career through an international reflection. This will make you a global teacher who can be taught in any context across the globe, not only Europe. Okay?
Thank you so much, Hocam, for this very informative talk. It has been a great pleasure to listen to and learn from you today. And I'm sure our participants feel the same way. Now I would like to turn to them for questions and comments.
Okay, yes. Yes, dear prospective colleagues, do you have any questions, any comments, any ideas? Nurdan Hocam, did you like it?
Yes, Hocam, very much so. Thank you very much for a great presentation. This is really a very important point for teacher education programs and for our students in particular. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Michael, as an academic from Ghana, do you think I am sure you haven't heard about this EPOSTL, but do you think you can make use of in your schools for the teachers?
Hello, Prof. Definitely, I can see that we do have similar issues of pedagogy in Ghana here. And in actual fact, when I was also trained as a professional teacher, so as you are teaching, the way you were going through, I took it to be like a revision for me. And I have actually revised a lot through whatever you have said. For instance, when we said that you've been teaching some deprived areas, students, where as a teacher, you need to adopt or adapt teaching methods where you don't have some of the technological tools or resources available, do you say that you cannot teach? No, you need to improvise or adapt teaching and learning methods to suit the students or the learners at the deprived area so that they can equally benefit from the teaching. So we do salute to Professor Doctor for your insightful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michael. Warmest greetings to Ghana. Thanks a lot.
All right, they were here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Seda Iman, Cansu Aykut, would you like to ask something?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Talib.
Hi, I'm a research assistant at Bartın University. As you know, this year we'll have our first senior students doing their practicum. And one of the statements in the EPOSTL caught my attention because I'm working on it and interested in this issue. Let me read it. It says, I can take into account the knowledge of other languages learners may already possess and help them to build on this knowledge when learning additional languages.
Yes.
I think around the world and in Turkey as well, classrooms are becoming increasingly multilingual.
Yes.
And there are debates about whether or not or how much teachers or learners should be allowed to take advantage of their L1. And in multilingual classrooms, there will be various L1s. So how much do you think we should allow our students to use their L1s? And as a teacher, in what conditions, circumstances should we give ourselves freedom to use our L1s?
Mm-hmm. I think you misconcepted that statement, because utilizing the advantage of their first language through teaching a second language does not mean that you can allow them to use their L1 all the time in the classroom. Learning one language means that you are aware of some language mechanics, using nouns, verbs, prepositions, tenses, coherent devices in any language, or guessing some similar words, or guessing some alternative cultural tracks in both languages if the student is coming from an L1 context other than maybe the native culture or the culture of the second language. So you may utilize their first experiences. Similarly, if I say, Talib, do you know you have some Japanese language? You may say, I don't think so, but I say, I think so, because in Japanese language also there is subject, verb, object, and you know the relationship between verb and subject in Japanese. You know what times or tenses are presented in Japanese as well as in Turkey or in English. So this is what you know about Japanese. Maybe you cannot speak Japanese, maybe you haven't started learning Japanese, but at least you may guess something about the language of Japanese. So this is your first language advantage. Similarly, you can do this kind of an approach when you are teaching an additional language other than their mother tongue, because you know that they can learn one language. So this means that they can learn another language. They have no learning problems for languages.
Thank you, Hocam. Certainly. But I am sure when the student teachers go to their practicum schools, they will encounter situations in which students will be using different languages than the target language.
Yes.
Some teachers may not be tolerant of such linguistic practices, and even in research context, there are people who argue against this.
Do you know what is the best way to avoid encouraging L1 in the classroom as L2 teachers? Students can speak L1. You cannot ban them. You cannot stop them. You shouldn't interfere their communication, because at least they are communicating with you using their mother tongue. This is a good side of communication. But what you can do to encourage them to use L2 is not to communicate in L1 with them. You should give natural response to their L1 inquiry using L2. If they address you a question, for example, in Turkey context, in Turkish, give them response. You understand what they mean, and respond them using English only. So after some time, they will understand that you want to communicate with them using English, and it will become a kind of a game. If you become a welcoming teacher, if you behave them in a natural way, if you do not seem them to be a resistant person, then they will in the end communicate with you with using first some simple sentences, simple words, in a funny way, later in a friendly way, later in a natural way. You will see this sequence in the way of communication. This is the outcome of many studies in bilingual classes. So even young learners become users of L2 in a natural way. All right. So be patient. Prospective teachers and teachers should be patient enough, because learning a language is not an easy task. Learning a language is not just learning about language. You know, in language classes, we develop 3 competences: linguistic, communicative, and intercultural. They start using linguistic part. They learn words, phrases, tenses. But when they are ready, they start to communicate. When they feel safe enough, just like kids born in a home, in a society, in a family, they do not speak from the beginning. They start speaking when they are ready. Sometimes a child does not speak until the age of 5, 6. There are many kids like that because they don't feel safe. They learn the language, they understand, they communicate, mostly using nonverbal skills, but verbal skills start when they are ready enough. So this period is important. So in the language classrooms, you may face with some students who are unwilling to communicate, but with the support of the teacher, with your natural response, with natural communication, they use L1, you use L2, but in the end they become users of L2, that much, this much, or that much. But English language teachers are not teachers only in the classroom. Remember, you are your students' first and most natural language partners. You should speak English in any premises of your school, in the school garden, in the canteen, in the classroom, in the corridors, everywhere. If you start speaking Turkish with your students, they do not need to communicate in English with you. They do not need to communicate English with anyone in Turkey. But we should just motivate them to use their additional language for communicative purposes in any possible opportunity. You are the most important initial opportunity for them. I hope Dilay Ülker has heard what I said. I know Ceren Nur is listening to me, Ceren Nur Biryan. You are listening to me, Ceren Nur, aren't you?
Yes, we are listening, hocam.
Dilay is listening. Okay, thank you. Esra Karakuş, are you listening to me?
İsmail hocam.
Yes, hocam.
Thank you very much. What about you, Sude? Have you heard it? I know you will become successful teachers in the future. We are all proud of you and we rely on you very much, guys.
İsmail hocam, can you hear me?
Yes, Zeynep hocam.
Thank you for presentation, first of all. I don't know, you remember maybe met in Global in Cyprus?
Yes, I know.
I have a question actually. I just want you to make it a little bit clear for me because it's a new topic. and I think it's very informative for me. It's about the assessment of learning, and there's a culture part there. And I think it's about intercultural competence, not
Yes.
the target culture.
Yes.
So my question is about the assessment of intercultural competence. I mean, how is it possible to assess our intercultural competence for language teachers? And another point is that sometimes students can accept their teachers as the model for the target culture.
Mm-hmm.
And because it is only way of the assessing knowledge about the target culture. Of course, they can use technology and social media. They have international friends, but we can say instant knowledge about the target culture during their classroom activities maybe, or some especially reading and writing courses. So my question is about how to assess our intercultural competence, and do you think that teachers are aware of the need for intercultural competence? I mean,
Yes.
because they accept the culture concept as the target culture, not the intercultural ability, I think.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Yes. Culture, target culture, or the culture of the target language used to be the ultimate objective during the practices of odolingual method. But today, everything is based on an action-oriented approach. It is not important how you use the language. It is important how successfully you are setting up communication using the language. But of course, language teachers have a different role. I am talking about the users of the language, but language teachers should be good models, of course. You should maximum pay attention to your pronunciation, use of structural rules, selection of vocabulary, and using your nonverbal communication skills when you are teaching to the students. Of course, this is very important. When it comes to the cultural diversity, again, how do you think you can assess students' cultural development? Using context. You should provide them with different contexts from different cultural environments, and you may expect them how to behave, how to respond, how to set up communication, how to address their inquiries, etc. Probably you will see, naturally of course, you will see some videos, you will read some text, maybe you will present something from your own personal experience based on your life in a different cultural context. So you may ask them to identify the differences between some cultures. You may ask them how to behave in that context as a person coming from another cultural context. You may ask them how to help someone from outside the cultural context when they are in their own contextual setting. So there are different ways, for example, in reading, in writing, in listening or speaking, to assess indirectly their intercultural abilities. Of course, directly, it may be sometimes difficult. Of course, you need to take them to another cultural context in order to assess their intercultural competence directly. But you are not in an intercultural context. You are in monocultural context, but you need to assess their intercultural competence. That's why you need to contextualize things. You need to give some clues. In that way, you may assess their intercultural or communicative competences. Another one, it is not necessary to present or to administer a formal assessment tool. You may assess their intercultural competence using some alternative assessment tools. For example, portfolios. For example, projects. For example, self-assessment reflections. You may ask them how interculturally competent they feel they are. So this is how you can evaluate intercultural competence development of your students using both formal, informal, and alternative assessment tools. I hope this is helpful.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for your fruitful presentation and all the things you taught to our students. They are going to be familiar with it all through the year because I'm going to, in a way, we are going to use EPOSTL in our courses, and when they go to their practice teachings, we are also going to check their teaching skills with the help of the EPOSTL. So
Okay.
I first of all, I wanted to make them aware of this product, aware of this self-assessment tool from you, because you know that you are a very important person to hear this kind of, to let our students learn about this self-assessment tool. So it was very valuable for us to be able to listen to you, Hocam.
Thank you
I
very
think
much,
we
Burçin.
learned
It's my
a lot,
pleasure.
and we are going to share all your presentation and all your thoughts in our first session with my 4th grade students. Thank you very
Okay.
much, Hocam. It is very valuable for us to share your ideas and your information here with our students.
With pleasure, Burçin. Thank you very much. And you may just ask me to join you in any way through Zoom or in academies for any problems. It's my pleasure. So, okay, then that's all for me. Michael, thank you very much for joining us from Ghana. I don't know what time it is. What time is it over there now?
Now it's 3 over here, 14 hours.
Wow.
Ghana
Thank you.
time, 2
Thank
p.m.
you. Thank you, Michael, for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Professor Doctor, and we salute you for your insightful presentation.
Thank you
It's
very much.
nice seeing you once again on Zoom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, everyone. So thank you very much for attending this session, this presentation. I hope it was fruitful for you, and hoping to see your success and hear about your achievement using the EPOSTL in your 4th year school. I wish you great success. All the best. Thank you.
Thanks a lot again, Hakkı Hocam, for a great talk on a very important topic. And thanks a lot also to EAT Talks in our department for organizing this event for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.